Welcome back to the Minds in Motion podcast. I'm your host, Charles Fatunbi, and today we're discussing AI, copyright, and the rights of artists. I'm joined by Adam Miko, who is the founder of Echora, a tech startup building real-time licensing guardrails for generative AI tools. Adam's journey spans music publishing, art direction, film production, and now he's currently building a software tool that aims to protect creators in ways the industry honestly hasn't prioritized before. I would say this episode is a must listen for creatives, technologists, and anyone curious about the future of art or what it looks like to protect your original ideas in the age of AI. Let's dive in. It's actually funny how we got introed. I had made a LinkedIn post about Mid-Journey scraping copyrighted intellectual properties. You came into my post and added some response, but also directed me to something that you're building, which we'll get into a little bit later. But why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, just your background and early career journey?
Definitely. My entire background is music publishing and it's entertainment. So I've been working in entertainment for over 10 years. I did a program at NYU Tisch, and the beginning of my career was really entering songwriter information into a spreadsheet and then putting that through the performing rights organizations to make sure that those songwriters and producers that were on those songs were getting paid from our music publishing company. And in addition to that, I was tagging demos and kind of doing what AI has the capability of doing now. But back then, we would get somewhere from 40 to sometimes 100 demos in a week. And before every weekly meeting where we went through all the demos to see which meetings those should come up in, I would go and label them pop, R&B, and then sometimes I'd label them as artists that they sounded like. I was very deep on the data side of the music publishing company. And I originally started working there because I wanted to learn about songwriters. I grew up wanting to be a songwriter. And slowly but surely, I kind of discovered this love for data and making sure that people were represented appropriately in data. Because connecting data and art, I feel like a lot of people have this cringe feeling when they hear the word content attributed to art or data or media, because it is art. So I've felt like, as someone who genuinely loves art, I wanted to be on that side to make sure that it's being taken care of. And more recently, on the creative side, I have been an art director for commercial campaigns for brands like Converse, Bose, Beats, and artists. Music videos like the Anxiety video for Doechii, Tyler, the Creator's entire last album rollout for Chromacopia. Lisa from Blackpink just released a song with Tyla this past summer, and I did the video for that. So I have gotten to taste both sides.
Okay, let's dive into that a little bit more. How did you transition into art direction?
My first job ever as a PA was on a Google shoot, and I was like, oh God, this is I'm so scared and so stressed out. And I was so excited to be a part of it. And within that same day, an art director from that shoot just kind of saw me and was like, the way that you approach small problems, I feel like you have some potential. So if you're up for it, I would love to train and mentor you. And I went through basically a boot camp for 3 months where I went from PA to coordinator to art director.
For the listeners who may not know, can you describe what an art director does and how that looks working with an artist?
Yeah, definitely. So we are on the project pretty much as the first department after production most often. We often get decks that are like, here is a general creative vision, but we want your input. And a lot of times the prep calls are with the director, are with the artist, are with management, and we are going through everything that their vision encompasses and making sure we are representing it in the way that they see. And it's very collaborative. You have to make sure that you are building the world, obviously in accordance to your vision, in accordance to the artist's vision, and everyone an equal important stakeholder in it. So you are running around to vendors. You also have a team of people who are going around. Like, there's a prop master, there's a set decorator, there are PAs. People are just kind of shopping for things, making sure that all the boxes are checked, because there are so many little details. For example, in the Anxiety video for Doechii, we rebuilt that entire bedroom. So we had to watch that video and just take every screenshot from every angle possible to make sure we were matching it as closely as physically possible. And it was such a cool moment because like when she came to set with her mom, they walked through and it was this like, oh my God, this is the exact room. I feel like we're transported. And when someone has a reaction like that, you know that you've done what you need to do for that project. I think just in general on projects, one thing I've noticed is I have been very, very lucky to work with artists who care so much about their craft. I have not really had an experience with an artist who shows up to set kind of like, okay, whatever, we're here. I mean, like Tyler, the creator, Dochi, like Lisa, all these artists are like perfectionists. They want everything to match what their vision is. And there's a reason they have that vision.
The reason why I wanted to dive into that is because it sets precedence to the work that you're doing now. And I think without having that experience, being up close with artists, understanding the work that they do, the passion that goes into it, it would be hard to empathize with, the rise and the adoption of AI platforms and how it's permeating the creative industries. So I want to pivot into the genesis of Echora, which is the startup creative technology platform that you're working on. So could you, in simple terms, tell us what is Echora, what does it do, and how you came about starting it?
Essentially, Echora is a place for artists to be able to register their work and set prices, terms, and permissions for how it can be referenced by AI. It's API accessible by AI companies, and it is a place to live reference work and make dynamic data available. So if an artist changes their mind about whether they want their art to be made available to artificial intelligence to reference, then they can switch a toggle and remove that ability or grant that ability within milliseconds. They are also able to set prices if their asset, for example, or if their specific piece of art is trending, they can set a marketplace price, kind of like Amazon. Creators are able to actually set what prices they feel their work should be available at.
Before we get into the story, walk through a case study of an artist or maybe a record label walking through your platform. What does their journey look like using your technology?
So Suno and Udio are at negotiation tables with record labels, and they are trying to opt in for a one-time licensing fee. There are a lot of companies that are providing the option of a one-time licensing fee, but that is not how the media industry has been built. That's not how entertainment's been built. It has always been for on a per use basis, and it has always been based off of popularity. It's almost like the idea of Spotify paying one license fee and then getting songs that end up generating billions of streams and never paying those artists in accordance to that. So what we allow labels and what we allow artists to do is to upload their work, and then I make it able to be referenced by artificial intelligence on a per use basis live.
So this art, is it agnostic with photo, video, music, painting, or still imagery, or is there parameters around what we're considering or defining art?
No, I mean the way that we are defining it is images, songs, video, 3D assets. We're even expanding into gaming.
And what attributes are being ingested into your platform that allow for this tagging or tracking of the IP to even be possible?
Well, we built this on a very granular level based off of my experience in entertainment. I've seen the detail that goes into actually selecting what we're going to use on a set. I've seen the detail of actually selecting a proper tag so it can later be pulled for a meeting with a manager or a record label. So we have that experience behind us, and we go through and make sure that the storytelling elements of the song are recorded. All of the little details, the DNA of an art piece, that's not just the first dimension of what it looks like at face value.
Was there a specific moment or insight that sparked the idea for Echora?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, I was working on a startup that was completely for attribution and making sure that creative people could get credit for the work that they have been a part of. And it was really kind of like a glorified credits platform. And then I thought that Echora what Echora is now could be a feature within that, where once you prove that you worked on a project, you can then allow it to be referenced by AI. And that really started before ChatGPT came out. The process of creating that started in 2020. But then I really narrowed down and pivoted to just focus on Echora because I saw that that was the need that was happening, like how rapidly everything was changing within the industry and the amounts of conversations that were happening about people not sure if they would have jobs within media anymore.
I think there's an element of remixing that there's an ethical side and then there's an unethical. For example, you have a DJ that remixes songs and puts it into his or her set, and maybe they're not profiting off of it. It's strictly for the art of it and to expand their skill set and their reach. But then there is a commercial that rips a song off of an artist's music video or their Spotify and puts it into the commercial because they're explicitly trying to sell a product and profit off of it. So there's kind of two sides to the fence. Echora sounds like you're allowing artists that want to put their arts on the public use for people who want to remix it or use it to enhance their own artistic endeavor. But in doing so, you're also paying royalties back to that original creator.
That's correct.
I think that's fascinating because there are platforms that pop up into my head where you're able to monetize from it. And I'm thinking about YouTube, but you're under the control of the platform owner. And by control, I mean the algorithm, whether it's up or down that day or that month, AdSense, the particular niche that you're in is more valuable on that platform or not, ad partnerships, all these different things that are outside of the creator's control. But you had mentioned with your platform, the creator has the ability to set their own pricing, to set the duration of their rights if they want to pause it and turn it on. Why do you think that is an important feature to add?
Given the environment that we're in, I think it's an important feature to add and make sure the artists are actually getting the complete ownership and consent of the use of their work. Because I've seen artists sign deals where they regret them almost instantly sometimes, but over time they regret them as well. And I just want to take that regret out. I want to make the ability for work to be referenced dynamic so you can change it at any time. I would love to be able to give Disney the ability within our platform to select the social topics that they want their work to be associated with. So, like, hypothetically, if Disney didn't want their work to be associated with politics, with war, anything of that nature, then they would just be able to check that so that their work doesn't surface when someone's asking for an image of war. Like, if you don't want to see Mickey Mouse in the battlefield, you don't have to. And as the owner of that work, that is so valuable to protect your brand illusion and to make sure that, like, what you've put so much love and work into doesn't just get taken and turned into anything that people on the internet want to do with it. You have to have some sort of ownership. And I think one thing that is a theme in entertainment that we see so often is artists get the short end of the stick sometimes in terms of what their permissions are over what they can do with their work. So giving them the power to change that at any time is very important to me because I have seen how it changes artists and how sometimes it completely shuts them out of wanting to continue art.
In an ideal state, how does Echora work at scale? In order for you to be able to give control to the artists and them being able to control the usage of their work has to be ingested into the Echora ecosystem or the Echora platform, right? What would a future ideal state look like where this platform is serving as many creators as possible while also keeping a checks and balance on the usage rights?
The way that I see the future of Echora evolving throughout is I want to make sure that we are always the bridge between artificial intelligence and artists. I do see a world where companies and individual owners are able to both collaborate on an owned project and set a voting terms and permissions piece. Because, like, one thing I'll say is when I worked in music publishing, it was very rare that one artist was the only split holder on a song. So if multiple people own one asset, one creative work, then they should have the ability to vote on what happens with that work. And it shouldn't have to be over complex negotiations with lawyers. It should really just be focused on, okay, like open up your dashboard and vote on what terms you want. And the terms don't change until everybody agrees. So it really democratizes your ownership of your work and makes it dynamic. Yeah, I do see Echora working as scale AI, but for the media and entertainment industry to protect their IP and make sure that it is actually generating per use royalties, because that's how our industry has been built. And it really goes beyond that. It's like I think that at some point it would be incredible if anything that could be copyrighted, anything that has proper ownership, if it's being referenced by AI, that person deserves attribution for that. And I'm talking like a 3D model that was built by an architect. If that's being referenced in an AI output in an AI engine that is essentially building another building, referencing that model, that person deserves some sort of attribution, some sort of payment if there's a payment involved.
It's funny because whenever I have this conversation or anything pertaining to creative works and usage rights, I also put myself in the shoes of the villain. What is the villain gonna try to do to work around whatever new technology is surfacing? And one example that constantly pops up in my head is the old fashioned screenshot. Let's say you have a photographer, they've uploaded their work onto Echora. Someone wants to take that original piece of work and screenshot it, frame it, print it out, and then frame it in their house. What type of technological overhaul will have to be done so that the act of screenshotting on a device is going to flag some system or do something that shows, hey, this is a fake. This is not the original. Do you see a future where that is the case, or is that pretty hard to do?
It is not hard to do because we've done it. And I'm thrilled to talk about that. I don't think we even got into that feature when you and I were first getting introduced. But one thing that I made sure about was that if your work is referenced or registered with Echora and somebody tries to reference it, first of all, they could try to do it using just text and a prompt. So they could say, like, if you own the property Batman and you want to reference Batman, but it is omitted. So in the system, you've said, I do not want this to be referenced by AI. Our system will not surface anything related to Batman, and instead it will provide, okay, here are superheroes that we kind of think you are trying to go for, but we are not referencing Batman to respect copyright. And it's not just text-based, it's also image-based. So if it is a property or massively well-known work, um, even if it's like the specific asset is not registered with us, it will recognize a screenshot from a Batman video game. And if someone tries to put a screenshot from a Batman video game, even him like facing away from the camera, and it registers, okay, this is Batman, then this is connected to the property Batman, and they don't want it used, the same process happens. So we don't even, it doesn't even have to be a one-to-one exact screenshot. If people try to, like, for lack of a better term, get slick with it, if they try to even take a portion of an image that's registered with us, I'm talking like 10% in the corner screenshot, it will register. And we will be able to say, we recognize that this is part of an asset that is protected and cannot be used.
Wow. I can see the perfect scenario from the Echora system side. But let's say you're on your iPhone, the act of pressing those two buttons that allow you to screen capture, are there going to be hardware specifications that the industry as a whole needs to kind of get behind to prevent that screenshot from being captured on someone's phone?
So you're saying if someone screenshots an output,
Yeah, the output of it.
so that would basically apply the exact same way that the terms of Getty Images does, or Shutterstock, for example. Like, you're violating terms at that point, and we log every single output within our system. So if an output was generated utilizing Echora, we have the ID from the AI company. We have our own unique ID for it, and we are able to trace that usage and find it the same way that Shutterstock or Getty Images would.
I see. Interesting. Yeah, I think it solves like a huge gap.
What's different about Echora is the fact that no other platform, it actually measures the input level inference of an asset. So we are actually able to take it from the input level through generation and the output level to accurately report the percentages used. And at the end of that, we operate off of a model that essentially pays creators, and we take a small fee, kind of similar to like how Spotify does it. Their terms are like 70% go to the owners of the work. I haven't seen any models that do like something that is that high for copyright holders. Like no percentage that I've seen is that high. And no model is paying AI companies as well. So we are basically allowing people to keep 70%, allowing artists like and empowering artists to keep 70% of their work, have full control over it. And then we are not being, for lack of a better word, greedy and keeping the remaining 30%. We're actually splitting that with our AI partners because we understand that like their technology is helping fuel the wheel of creativity and creation. So we really are looking out for both sides throughout.
You said AI partners, correct? And that's one thing I think people maybe overlook is these AI models are essentially the backbone of generative AI. And so they have to have ways of making money. And I think there is a business model for them to leverage. If we go back to the Disney case, I can see in a world where Disney says, okay, we're not going to give you just 100% access to just use our IP for whatever you want. But we do see value in the power of this engine. The fact that even though it was without our permission, you were able to generate really, really high quality replicas or remixes of our IP. We actually want to do something in-house. And then they take that Mid-Journey model, maybe a subset of it, and they subcontract it internally inside of Disney. And Disney is not paying a fee to Mid-Journey. And maybe it's flipped as well. Like Mid-Journey is able to have specific parameters that's set by Disney, and every output, they are having to pay some sort of royalty or licensing fee. And it's kind of like this circular effect where the license holder is making money, but also the engine behind the generative AI is also making money as well. So that's an interesting point that you brought up about partnering with both sides.
Yeah. And the reason that we are a fantastic plug for both sides is because, I mean, imagine in your example, if Disney made a direct partnership with Midjourney and tried to build their own version of what we do at Echora. First of all, I know how difficult it is to actually be able to attribute the correct percentage of how much of an asset was used from the input level. And it's very different if you look at something on the output and you try to say, oh, this looks like this. But the truth is, you're guessing at that point. If we do it from the input, we're actually able to say, this is truly what was referenced, and this is how much of it was referenced. I know how difficult it is to do that. So if you think about every entertainment company trying to partner with every AI company that generates images and making their own version of something like Echora, AI companies and entertainment companies don't have the bandwidth to do something like that. That is so complex, and it would just make it almost impossible for them to actually collaborate. And what if one of the systems failed, but the other one didn't? And then you have what we're trying to avoid is lawsuits. And we are essentially like almost the equivalent of an insurance company to make sure like, look, you are going to be handled. It is like you change your permissions in one place and then it's blasted out to every single AI partner that we want. And companies are even able to set if they don't want to partner with some of our AI platforms or have some AI platforms reference their work. Like they can uncheck, I don't want to partner with X.
So in the example that I gave, that would essentially be your competition. You would not want each individual entertainment entity or creator to create their own individual like partnership with the AI platform. That's what you guys are for. And so you would say, hey, Disney, come to us and ingest your content into our platform. And we'll be the brokerage between your content as the creator and the AI engine that is iterating off of the model.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's competition just because I do have the experience within entertainment. And I know when you're dealing with companies that large, even individual rights holders, you are, like I said, it's conversations with lawyers around a table forever. There is just not enough bandwidth and time for these companies to actually build something that's going to work for them. And then there's no standardization. If you have all these companies going and making their own version, how can AI platforms go through each individual license and tech iteration that these companies have made and make sure that it actually is following some sort of standard? With us, there is a standard. You know what the numbers are, and we are basically creating a version of a performing rights organization for your work to be referenced.
I know you spoke about how your background prepped you for the world of art direction, but how did you get into this medium just from a technical standpoint?
The way that I got into all of this is I really do have two brains. Like, I have the artistic brain that is so obsessed and in love with and infatuated with art. And then I have the side of my brain that is very data driven and so excited about innovating and creating. And the irony is, like, I think those two brains do converge in the same spot because I build worlds on set. The way that I started with all of this is when I was even working in music publishing, I always had ideas. I always had like a different startup idea. And at that point, I think it was like, I must have been 20 at the time. And I had meetings with VCs over basically image recognition technology. And I had this concept for what Google ended up doing, which was like being able to find products from an image. And I just thought like, oh, how cool would it be if you were able to actually like screenshot something from Instagram and tap it and say like, oh, I want to find where that's available. And Google ended up doing that. And at the time I was so inexperienced. It was truly just an idea. It was just at the idea phase. And I had like full VC meetings where they didn't go so incredibly well. But that just kind of shows you how I really have had concepts for startups for a very long time. I mean, like, genuinely, I think I have like 8 just like in the bank. But the reason that I focus on this, the reason that I always go towards the ones that have to do with protecting the creative industry is because of how much creative work has given me throughout my lifetime. I mean, like, that's one thing that I did with my dad when I was younger. We constantly went to concerts. He'd be like, oh, like, your favorite artist is coming into town. Do you want to go see them? And it was so funny because he would always say like, oh, you're kind of like not yelling, you're not freaking out, you're just like observing. And I was always like very stoic, just like watching what they were doing because I was so interested. And I think all of these cultural moments impacted me so greatly that, like, no matter how many startup ideas I have had, I always make sure that I'm prioritizing and focusing on protecting the creative industry because it gives to culture in more ways than I think we realize.
Typically when there's startups, like you have a technical co-founder and then maybe there's a more marketing or product facing founder. This is obviously a very legal heavy platform. Do you have advisors that you work with to make sure you're going in the right direction?
Yeah, I do. So I have a team of 6 officially. The official team that I have on deck is myself as the founder. I have a lead technologist who is fantastic. He has a background in neuroscience and he's won like 8 hackathons with artificial intelligence. He really deeply understands technology, and I wanted to make sure that I could find somebody who could match where I was at tech wise or surpass it. In addition to that, I do have 2 legal advisors. One is a patent attorney, so he works on all the patents that I have filed for Echora, and the other is really kind of like a day-to-day IP attorney. He's amazing, and he makes sure that I'm saying all the things that I should say because I'm such a nerd. I will literally tell you exactly how it works because it's like a technological like mind game, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is how it goes. And he always like reels me in. He's like, okay, calm down, just explain to people what the purpose of it is. So I have a great legal team there. And I also have a business advisor who has helped people raise everywhere from pre-seed to Series D funding. He's really wonderful, and he just has believed in this product for so long. He's been on board as probably one of the longest team members that I've had. And I have an advisor who is the COO at a production company in Los Angeles, and that company was actually named Ad Age's 2025 Production Company of the Year. He's an advisor at a company called Rapbook, which is valued at $750 million, but they are a wonderful payroll company. And one thing that I love about this advisor is is he's seen everything from production. He was doing paper time cards like back in the 80s, and frankly before Rapbook, like even the 2010s. So he just sees technological advancements and gets so excited when Google releases something new, and getting his perspective on this has been so invaluable.
It's good to know that you have a well-rounded team that has diverse perspective, but is also just as equally as passionate about the product and the journey as you are. Do you have any advice for founders on finding a team that you just described?
Yeah, absolutely. I genuinely think that LinkedIn is a fantastic place to start. And also, there are so many meetups for investors and advisors. If you just go into like small business centers and try to connect with people who have experience running small businesses, you can definitely find somebody that is within your niche, within your wheelhouse. And I'd also say, like, don't be shy to request people on LinkedIn who you think are like, oh my God, this person's way past my reach. Because I have genuinely gotten connected with people from LinkedIn who have founded multi-billion-dollar companies. Like, I mean, the founder of YouTube just accepted my LinkedIn friend request, which is like, I've never met the man. And I'm just kind of like talking about my startup. Like, I hope he likes it and I hope he responds. And that wasn't from an intro. That was just from me trying.
Yeah, we're in an age where the connection point between you and someone that you want to know is becoming much, much slimmer. I think the hard part for a lot of people is just putting themselves out there and getting over the fear of rejection. So that's a huge testament to that. But have you encountered any pushback from platforms or any industry players? And if so, what's that experience like?
I wouldn't necessarily call it pushback as much as skepticism. People have definitely tried to say, why would an AI platform integrate with you if they so far haven't had any real retribution for the actions that have been committed? Now, I think that we are at a time where artificial intelligence needs to be trusted. We are handing over so much control of our lives over to artificial intelligence. And the irony is, there is very little trust within artificial intelligence by creators. And those people are the people that would benefit so greatly from artificial intelligence and speeding up workflows and being able to make more if they wanted to, like actually being able to see their creative visions come to life.
I think it's somewhere upwards of 80% of creators had some sort of distrust or skepticism towards AI technologies. This is a study done by Patreon last year. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because I think the creative community is obviously being impacted by it. And the scar is very visible when someone is coming into your home and stealing something that you created from your mind and using it for something else. That leaves a very visible scar. But at the same time, there's another edge of the sword that can be used as a tool. You know, obviously Echora is just one version of that. Even with workflows and helping speed up ideation and all these different use cases for AI, we want to make sure that we're shedding positive lights to empower the creators so that people in other industries don't go off and use AI for their benefit and they see the fruits of it. Whereas the creators who are left with the skepticism, they choose to ignore it and are left behind. And so I think there's a form of education as well that will constantly have to be present in the room. How much do you think the legal system, at least in the US, will need to shape up in order to push this needle forward?
What needs to happen in the legal system to actually impact artificial intelligence and artists has already begun happening. And I think the problem that people are running into time and time again is the fact that they feel like they don't actually have the quote right answer because people don't really want to settle for one-time licensing fees. That's not enough because then AI is able to make your work over and over and over again, reference your work over and over again without you seeing another cent. And I mean, the Copyright Office released part 3 of the not officially published a part of the copyright study, where basically it told AI companies that you have to license content properly. And I actually went to the Copyright Office in December of 2024, and I presented Echora, but they were very sure to not like engage with the technology itself, just hear me out, because it kind of becomes a fine line when it's like you're a business and you're trying to suggest how a government should run. Like, so I completely understood, and I really came at it from a perspective of like, this is not about Echora. This is just the only system that I feel would work, whether it's us, whether it would be somebody else. I think having a per use basis ability to earn off of AI utilizing your work will really help the industry and the group of copyright holders that you specifically represent. It was like a 5-page report that I dropped off with handwritten notes wishing them happy holidays. So I've definitely seen the legal implications of this and just what needs to change legally, and how like that study took a long time. I think one of the reasons the cases that we're seeing are taking such a long time is because I think the truth is we know the answer, but people just don't know what to do next.
Why is that? Because to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the music industry has probably had the biggest head start when it comes to being able to track the creative works of an artist. I use Shazam all the time. I can just click a button and it can tell me what song it was. That technology in itself could have so much value for just being able to detect work that's out there. But startups like yourself, you have to kind of start from scratch or start from zero, whereas that seems like it should be a standardized thing that you could just build off from. Another example is YouTube being able to upload a video and maybe you have a 30-second snippet of a song playing in the background, but YouTube has flagged it because it recognized that, hey, there's copyrighted material in this random video that has nothing to do with the song. The technology is there, and I feel like the brain power is there to know what to do, but why is it not being applied in the correct way?
So artificial intelligence, I think, is still being learned by the majority of lawmakers, the majority of people who are making these decisions. There are a fair amount who genuinely know the ins and outs of how it works. But then there are also people who are kind of just like learning what ChatGPT is. And when they hear the term in court that AI learns like a human, they don't really look into the backstory, don't have the backstory of what that really looks like. And what that looks like is complete statistical probability, where you have data that you are pulling on and referencing. So it's not learning, it's you are constantly pulling on data quickly. So I think the truth is just Shazam is a great example of this, but it's not, that's a technology that's existed for a long time. And Shazam didn't come out when radio came out. Shazam came out decades later. So while there is attribution technology in ways, I think people are still trying to get a grasp on what AI really does, how it, quote, learns, and what it is truly capable of before they really give a prescriptive answer on how to move forward. I think a huge contributing factor to this is the fact that the world is kind of almost an arms race over AI, trying to see which country can actually go ahead in this race faster than the others. And I'm not sure if you saw, like, for example, the EU asked OpenAI to reveal their training data, and OpenAI responded by saying, we would rather shut off access to OpenAI. So yeah, there's a lot that is happening in the world right now in terms of that, because truly, like, in a way, I see where OpenAI is coming from, because it's not just the training data that's important. It's like they are basically saying, you're asking us to reveal exactly how our technology works from a granular level. Echora actually gives them the ability to not have to reveal that information, but instead reference work that is available. And one thing that's really important is we are not using our own like model on its own. We are able to integrate with any AI system. So if you want to use logic from your AI system, we empower your AI system to be able to plug in and reference and use its own logic to the latest model that you have to find these assets.
So it makes it modular in a sense.
Exactly, yeah. And I know that a lot of companies would be nervous. For example, if you're OpenAI, you don't want to use Gemini's technology, but you don't have to. You can use your own technology to interact with our system.
So one of my final questions is just around call to action for creators. As AI becomes more integrated, in our creative workflows, what do you think the role of the human creator will look like maybe in 5 years?
I think AI is going to become a part of all of our workflows. I think the weight of guilt that people currently feel in the creative industry will turn into like this big sigh of relief. And it will really be the greatest era for collaboration ever. Because truly, if you think about it, if your output is referencing work by 20 artists, 50 artists, 100 artists, that's never been able to happen in terms of speed of collaboration. Like that is the fastest you're able to collaborate with artists who are willing. Just it's instantaneous. And I think that will lead to amazing art. But what we need to make sure of is that AI companies don't just scrape on a one-dimensional level and find art off the internet and just call it good. The reason they need a platform like Echora is because we actually go into the details of what that art is, and we contextualize it, and we make sure that it understands better. Like, in my opinion, that's going to lead to less hallucinations. That's going to make sure that artificial intelligence companies and artists are able to respect a work and actually have the descriptors of that work be accurate and feel seen. Like artists will be able to feel seen by AI, and really in order for us to progress 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, and actually see something great about this where we don't have this eerie feeling where we're not sure if we should actually be using this or not, where we can actually shed all the negative emotions and connotations with using AI for art, that's going to lead us to an incredible place.
Are there any immediate actionable steps that a listener who may be an emerging creative or a media professional can do to prepare themselves or educate themselves on this particular topic?
Yeah, I mean, creatives can reach out to their associations and unions like the Directors Guild of America, BMI, and basically every entity with a many-to-one relationship, because those entities need to hear why it is important for your work to continue to make recurring revenue within artificial intelligence. And investors who care about art and love it really need to realize that this is such a huge moment for culture, and a few wrong moves could really decrease people's interest in pursuing creative paths professionally. And that really will just dry up art and lead to art and culture turning into this like regurgitated gray matter that no one wants to see.
Any last points or comments that you want to make about Echora, and then also plugging where people can find you to learn more about your journey building Echora, or even perhaps getting a demo?
The last thing I'll say is what tech builders can do, because this is really important. They need to ask themselves where they draw the line. And I mean, I understand how we got here because there wasn't infrastructure to support mass referencing of copyrighted work, but that's no longer the case. Echora is genuinely here to be the bridge that we need for AI and art to be able to thrive and collaborate. The way that you could find us and schedule a demo would be through our website at www.echora.ai. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Adam Miko. And I also have my email listed on my LinkedIn as well. So anybody who wants to chat about this, genuinely, I love talking about this. This is such an important matter that we are dealing with right now because it's going to shape the way that our entire entertainment sphere is going to look in the future.
Thank you so much, Adam. This was an absolute pleasure, and I cannot wait to see what you do with Echora.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Charles.